All right, everyone. Welcome to another Around the Water Cooler. This is the spin-off show of Robots Attack. And I am Caleb, and with me is...
Jason.
And...
Joe.
That's right, and we're here to talk about Suicide Squad, which we just watched.
Yeah.
Like maybe an hour ago.
Yeah.
So what names should we adopt out of like the Suicide Squad members? I was thinking I'm probably Captain Boomerang, but
Captain Boomerang? All right.
No, you don't generally. It's kind of like nicknames. You don't pick it yourself.
okay.
Usually assigned.
What's your argument then?
Caleb is Captain Boomerang.
Crocky, why you say that, mate?
Or I'm sorry, that's what the tabloids call you.
Now,
Spoilers.
If you give justification, then we could say, okay, I see where you're going with it.
Just
What's-
easily the least useful member. That's my justification.
See, I would have gone with the facial hair, but okay.
And Australian. I mean, so yeah.
Norwegian and Australia right next to each other on the map.
Right.
Same
Right.
parallel,
Yeah.
just reversed.
Yeah.
I
Same
think
deal.
there's one member who's probably the least, but that's perhaps spoiler territory.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit here.
Yeah, because do you want to do like we did with was it Ghostbusters? Do we
Yeah.
want to split this, like talk a little,
Sounds good.
a little bit
Yeah.
non-spoilery, and then jump into spoilers, or
I think that's a good plan.
we'll
this-
give you
this-
fair warning.
Yeah, we will warn you before we jump into spoiler territory, so just keep your ear out for that. But for now, general impressions is where we'll be beginning. So, Jason, what was your first thoughts about the conclusion of the film?
Me personally, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun. I refuse to pretend like it was the shit, the absolute shit.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. Joe?
Not so much. I think this was, having seen like the trailers that did a really good job with it. It spoiled a lot of the movie for me, like a lot of the good lines, the good, like it gave it a really nice style that I think the movie itself didn't really have. Yeah. So to me, it was like it was kind of a mess. Like
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's as bad as like everyone's saying. Like it's getting a lot of bad reviews.
Yeah.
But I didn't have as much fun as I'd hoped, and I don't know if that's partially because a lot of like the good parts were spoiled from the trailers, or
Yeah.
if it was just like that and combination of the movie. Like it's hard since you've already watched the trailers. Like you can't
Unwatch the trailers.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't go Eternal Sunshine and the Spotless Mind and just pull that out of our memories.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that even if I wanted to, because I saw that movie and it was a bad idea in the end.
Fair enough.
What about you, Caleb?
I'm more in line with you, Joe. In this case, I thought it was. I guess I'm kind of ambivalent about the whole affair. It's like I'm not gonna say it was bad. I'm just not sure it was good. It seemed like it kind of.
Just didn't enjoy it, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, there was enough elements did not hit me right that I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this after seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah, like for me, a lot of the humor didn't hit. Like the best humor parts were the ones in the trailer, and so it's already saw it and I knew that line was coming. It was still neat to see it, but it was like, I know what she's going to say, or I know what they're going to say. Like, but then the other parts, it felt like they were kind of little missteps on some of the humor. So I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah, I felt like there was some of it did not feel nearly as tight as it could have been. Like just the way it was put together.
yeah.
But we'll continue with gripes in a moment. Let's talk about what might have been like kind of good about it, or what we did sort of like. Jason, you seem to have enjoyed it the most. Why did you like it? Or what did you like about it, I should say?
Really, really liked all of the visuals, personally. I know I've heard a lot of people complaining that it's dark, and that's justifiable, I think. But when like the main bad guy's superpower is sort of darkness itself, it kind of makes some sense.
Right,
So,
yeah.
yeah. I didn't see a real problem with that. Yeah, all of the creature stuff was really neat to me. And unlike, especially Batman v Superman, once they got into all of the pyrotechnic stuff, most of it was really impressive. And Batman v Superman, it always kind of fell flat and felt like too much. So I enjoy all of that stuff a lot. That's a big selling point for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I liked the style of it. I think the visual, the art direction of the film. I would say was pretty decent, especially the creature effects. I agree with you. Like the monsters were kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. The makeup jobs I thought were pretty neat.
Yeah, it was different. Not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
that was nice. Like,
yeah, I felt like that was the one big surprise that they pulled off pretty well, because a lot of people had ideas of who the bad guy was, and they came close, but it didn't really nail it.
Yeah.
So when you find out who kind of the actual bad guy is, it's a nice little surprise.
How about you?
Spoilers, they're all bad guys.
What?
They're all villains.
The baddest of, I shouldn't say guys, bad people. How do I politically correct that?
Baddest of the bad.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
How about you, Joe? What did you think was pretty good about it?
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely, like the style of it is neat. Like, I wouldn't say it was, like, oh, I absolutely loved it, but I liked that it was different versus like Batman v Superman. So at least you got those like little hints of it still being in the same world, but it was different enough. So it was like, okay, I'm glad they at least tried something different. Like, hit or miss, at least they didn't go with like, okay, it's got to be like Zack Snyder. It's
Right.
It's got to be exactly like that. So
Yeah.
that was nice. It just stinks because I think, like, for me, a lot of the best stuff was just in the trailer. Like some of the character interactions were neat, but it was all the stuff that was like was already in the trailer. So it was just
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I said, the visual design was nice. I like. I thought the credit sequences, the opening and closing credits were pretty cool. I liked both of those
with each of the different characters and stuff like that.
Yeah. And when they went through like the character profiles kind of thing, when they had like the little like symbols that would go flash up across. Yeah, that was a nice touch.
Yeah. It's like there is some stuff I want to say, but it's I don't know if it's spoilery, so that I liked. So I'll save it for that, just to, if it it could
Stay
still
tuned,
be a surprise
folks. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Let's see.
I know it's difficult to try to
what
avoid
else?
non-detailed.
Yeah. I guess, are there any other like general feelings about the film that we want to voice before we move on to the next segment, which will be where we just forego any chance of you not having seen it before?
I would say,
well, we didn't really get into negatives yet, so
okay, that's true.
yeah. Do you want to jump to?
Yeah, let's do a quick round of things that were
let's
not
throw
so
the
hot.
negative switch.
Click.
Start us off, Caleb.
I'll start off. The thing that kind of fell most flat for me was some of the characterization. Like, they had a couple of good ones. I thought Deadshot and Harley Quinn were probably the strongest, most developed characters in the film, and the rest of them just a lot of times just seemed like they were there to kind of exist as a character in a film as opposed to be interesting, and that was that unfortunately took me out
Yeah,
most of the story as I was going through it.
they felt like more of like, okay, we need them for a plot point.
Yeah.
Whereas it was like, this could have just been like Deadshot and Harley Quinn and Flag. Like,
Almost, yeah.
because the others, it was just like, okay, we're going to need a character for this moment. All right, we'll have this guy. And it's kind of a shame because they could have done some, like, yeah, I was a little bummed with Killer Croc. Like, I thought he looked really cool.
Yeah.
Good look.
And
Yeah.
I thought some of the humor missed with him for me. Like, I was just thinking like, oh, they should have done that instead. Like, and I liked his character, but like I was disappointed that they didn't really like do anything with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of bummed about that. But
Yeah, I thought I felt like that was a little bit unfortunate. Also,
It was interesting having him have, best we can tell, a different backstory than anything that we've seen before. Also,
yeah,
so
That's
I don't
true.
know if that's a new 52 thing or not.
largely New 52, they made him more of a sort of a genetic reject.
He's a mutant, basically.
Effectively, yeah. Yeah, that's something that's been more of a thing in the newer story arcs involving him.
yeah.
Um,
What else? Anything
Let's see.
else?
I guess I'll
What did you think of Joker?
mixed. I'm not entirely certain I like this Joker.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he's not my Joker. Like, granted,
Hashtag not my Joker.
my Joker is Mark Hamill's voice acting from Batman the Animated Series. That will always be like my core Joker.
That your favorite Joker?
Yeah, so I think that one, and then Heath Ledger was excellent, and also I do still like Cesar Romero's Joker from the 1966 Batman, but it's a different, like, 1966 Batman exists in a very particular space and place and time. So that's
I've seen stuff, people making the argument that this is supposed to be a modern version of the Cesar Romero Joker instead of any of the other ones. And I don't know enough about that version to know why that would be a thing, so I thought I'd throw that to you.
Because how would you describe, for those who perhaps don't maybe know much about that version of the Joker?
yeah, that particular version of the Joker definitely was much more the clown prince of crime than most of the other ones. Like, there was a certain silliness to that Joker, that he was extravagant, flamboyant, even much more apt to do the whole smoke bomb in a lapel flower kind of gag. Like, that was his, very much something he would do.
So not so much like violent and sadistic.
Not quite so much. It was his acts of crime were the punchline to his act of crime, as opposed to they were sort of the impetus, if that makes sense.
It sounds like what they captured is just the flamboyant, like,
Yeah, that's true.
style.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely more of a modern this one, because he was definitely with the chains and the
Yeah.
tattoos and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that aspect of it.
Yeah,
captured.
especially like a purple Lamborghini.
Yeah,
If Cesar Romero had access to a Lamborghini, do you suppose he'd drive around in a purple Lamborghini, for instance?
That
the budget.
That
Right.
Joker might have considered he had some pretty swint cars for the day. So
Not just that, a purple chrome Lamborghini. That's a new level right there.
yeah, he also this Joker also had pearl handled gold plated AK-47s. So
Right. And a chunk of his crew did too.
yeah, yeah. This Joker was probably the single best dressed in terms of like most money spent on his clothing than any of the other Jokers I think I've ever seen.
I'll give it this too. Best Joker henchman ever.
Yeah, they were not useless, which was kind of nice.
Well, not just that, like they fit with Joker for the first time.
Yeah, they all had the funky masks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
They were kooky but menacing also. Like the teddy bear one. I would be afraid of that guy.
Yeah, I also like the one that had his mask looked sort of like an Iz from the Max.
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know there was a Batman one.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
was pretty
Another one,
hilarious.
too. Damn.
Yeah, the Batman one made it look like it was like a store-bought Batman
Yeah.
mask, but one that we've never seen before because it's a different Batman that we.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I agree. That was pretty choice. That was one of the
Yeah.
the visual direction of this film was hats off to the art director of the movie.
Yeah. Oh, and it did answer this. I wouldn't say this is really spoilery, but we were. I know a question was posed, I think, on the show about when this took place. Mm-hmm. This
It's
movie
after,
definitely
yeah.
answers that question.
Yes,
right
it
away.
does.
This takes space after Batman versus Superman. So, so if
Okay.
you want to know timeline,
Right.
So next question: what did people think of Waller?
well, what did you think of the Joker?
Yeah.
Like, did you?
I wasn't 100% sold on him. I felt like there were moments where he felt like an overdone bad guy from a really bad movie. And I know a lot of people are making the argument this is a bad movie. I didn't feel that way. But yeah, I felt like there were little spots where he just felt like he'd kind of like jumped off the edge a little bit too much. And I can respect that as an actor trying to get to that place, but I feel like the editing is where you kind of try and crank back on that to get it back into the feel of the movie. And every once in a while he just went a little bit too far into like just Looney Tunes zone for me. Not like super far, just enough that it didn't feel right.
Fair enough, Joe.
Yeah, I did hear. At least Jared Leto said that there were a lot of Joker scenes that were cut from the movie.
It felt like there was a lot of this movie that didn't make it into the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, because like I've heard interviews with like other actors, and they talk like Joel Kinnaman and stuff. But they talk about interactions with other characters and scenes that they did, and none of those scenes. I didn't see many of those scenes in the movie. I'm like, what's going on?
There's a lot of rumors that make a lot of sense out there right now, but I don't have any idea if they're accurate or not. But the biggest one, and I guess it's sort of confirmed by the credits, I didn't pay attention, but they ended up, literally the people who cut together the first preview with all of the like cool rock music and whatnot, they ended up promoting them to the main editors of the movie.
Interesting.
And the final run, from what I've understood of what we see right now, actually ended up making David Ayer fairly angry because they edited it much harder towards it being like music video or like a promo type of thing. And I feel like there's little spots where I definitely see that. Like the entire first 15 minutes are definitely like really hardcore, super edited like that. And down to the details where they like crank up all of the saturation in the pictures, even though it started out as like a gray picture to begin with, and threw weird little neon effects here and there.
Right.
Even though, like they pointed out, like it's the middle of the swamp in Louisiana, but there's always like a little subtle neon sheen to things every once in a while. That ends up fading out, and I feel like 3/4 of the movie ends up feeling like very much like a David Ayer movie, but like really heavy at the beginning and it spots at the end. I feel like it really did feel like those editors from that promo had kind of stolen the show.
I wonder if there'll be a director's cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting fan. That's a fan theory that I'd be willing to subscribe to, just because like the editing felt a little weird.
Yeah. The people who said that Joker was supposed to be way darker, like that entire storyline. And he was pretty dark to begin with.
Right.
So it makes me really curious, especially since Leto seems to be feeding into this theory by the things that he said. I am really curious to see. But anymore, it feels like we don't really get a genuine director's cut of anything. So I don't know if we'll ever see that movie. It's like they'll do an extended cut, but it never ends up feeling all
quite
that
right.
different. It seems like so. I don't know.
Fair
It
enough.
feels like it's still the producers in control of the extended cuts. So what's really going to change?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Joe? What's your thoughts on Le Joker?
I like
Le Joker.
yeah. I like that the character can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Yes.
And I'd say with this one, there wasn't enough for me on screen to judge it fair enough. In my opinion, like I got like little tastes and I could see, but like since there were like just little either flashbacks or little scenes here and there, it was hard. Excuse me. It was hard for me to really judge it. Like I like that character so much. It's weird. It's like I want to give whoever plays it like the benefit of the doubt. I want to see more of the character so I can then fully like get kind of the grasp of their style. Like I definitely agree. It's definitely feels more like a sadistic kind of Joker. Definitely more flamboyant in style. Like if you looked at Heath Ledger's Joker, he did not care about glam whatsoever. No. Like that didn't cross his mind. He just wanted to watch the world burn.
Yeah,
stuff.
His line is, "I'm a simple man. I like two things: diesel and explosives." Yeah,
yeah.
Both of which are actually expensive. So that was a weird line in my book.
This Joker would have never burned that gigantic pile of money.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So like it was neat. Even if it's a version of a Joker I don't particularly care for, because I just like the character so much, I like seeing different takes on it. So I think he did a cool job. Like maybe it's not like my favorite, Joker up there, but I would still like to see more. Like I just like seeing like kind of different takes on it, basically. So it was neat to kind of see like, oh, this is this world, like this world's version of the Joker. And I was like, man, I would love to see him interacting with Batman. Like I want like there was enough there that I want to see him interacting with better characters than he kind of got to play around with like in this one. So
yeah, I think that's very fair, because I feel like that's probably more on the nose about how I feel about the Joker in a lot of ways than what I said. Like that's a better description, because I'm like, because I think as you like put that, I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. Like this Joker is interesting. But I would like to see him against Batman, because that's where I think the Joker really shines as Joker.
Or someone formidable. Like
yes.
This one, it was just he was pretty much the formidable person. Like in any situation with him, like he didn't have someone really to play off well. He didn't have a Gordon to play with or a Batman. Like he was in charge, and it was the moments with him and Harley Quinn that were like kind of the only times where you could sort of see some
more
play
balance,
with each other and stuff. So I like those.
There's something interesting there too, because in the past, it's always felt like that's sort of Joker's superpower, is he doesn't give a crap about anything. He finally has something that he seemingly gives like a pretty big crap about. So that was an interesting shift in the character for me. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, which still plays oddly against some of the actions he takes in the film. Which I guess might be going to spoiler.
Yeah, we can save that for that part.
I'll save that for that later.
You asked what was the next question?
What did we think of Waller? Since I've heard a lot of people say that in their view, Waller was the strongest character in this movie, and I personally thoroughly disagree. But I just wondered what you guys think.
I have sort of mixed feelings about Waller also, because like I feel like on one hand they tried to portray her as very strong, and then on the other hand, the end results of a lot of her actions, she doesn't feel nearly as strong as I remember her being in other incarnations, and that hits me a little weird.
It was weird to me. It was like, to me, her character is all about just outright viciousness instead of being like super smart. And that's what I'd always understood about the character, was that it was this balancing act with her about, she's really smart and she knows how how to leverage people. So that was interesting to me on paper, but I never really, she may have grown some extra fingers.
Yes, Battlefield Earth.
Right.
A silo.
So yeah, on paper, I felt like that was an interesting character, like on paper, as in like in theory. But I'd never actually seen anything with her before, so I was looking forward to that. But it just felt like she was just vicious, and that's all. That was her ability, was that she was more vicious than anybody else.
Yeah,
It's a handy ability to have when you're dealing with supervillains,
it's true.
but still, it wasn't as interesting to me as it could have been.
Joe?
Yeah, it's like I've seen the actress in little bits and other things, and I think she's good.
Yeah.
But this version, I think it's kind of all over the place. I think like she did some stuff that it's like there were parts where it's like, okay, here's the intelligent side, like this makes sense, and then there's other things where it just felt like they just threw it in to make her vicious, like instead of, it's like I don't want to say spoiler stuff, but yeah, it was just like there were just little moments like, okay,
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the characterization of her was like it just seemed uneven.
and
Yeah.
you
But that said, this is totally a David Ayer choice. He never has good guys, like almost never. And so I am not surprised that there were no good guys in this.
Yeah.
I mean, Training Day is the only thing where he had a good guy. And ever since then, it's been basically like, well, who's the least crappy out of this group of people?
Fair enough. Yeah.
yeah. I never really felt like with her character, you may not agree with her like completely, but you still want to like kind of understand. But in this one, it just seemed like, I don't know, she was like,
It felt like what they were trying to do was make her so unlikable that you'd like Deadshot more.
And that, you know what, that's actually a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
Because they definitely set Deadshot up to be kind of the hero of the movie.
Yeah.
And if that's what they were aiming for, they did a decent job at doing that.
Yeah.
But I feel like they sacrificed a lot of other decently good choices as well to do so.
Yeah.
But that's a different issue.
Yeah.
But that said, I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with that character to know if that's the way that she actually is or not. I mean, I don't know if it's like dead on loyal to the comic books. If it is, I'm not sure I like that character. Just period.
How about you, Joe? Is there anything you wanted to get our thoughts on? Anything that stood out that you were like, I wonder what they think of this in this movie?
Who?
Anything any thoughts? Any thought
Just
that you
in
would
general?
like?
Or-
Yeah, just in general.
okay.
Non-spoilery things that you generally want to know
What we think.
our thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, are you asking me? I thought we talked about Waller already. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Nothing's coming to mind.
Okay. All right, I think we've covered the movie fairly well for now. Unless there's something specific, something non-spoilery specific you'd like to bring up, we could probably. jump into our.
I can't remember what we did with the Ghostbusters, but did we give our Netflix rating?
Yeah, I was saying we move on to the next
Okay.
Netflix rating, and then we'll
Then
go into spoiler
spoilers.
territory.
Okay.
Spoiler territory and do that. Alrighty. So I'm gonna my Netflix rating for this is
I remember Netflix, so it's 1 is
hated it. 2 is didn't like it. 3 liked it. I think 3 is liked it. 4 is really liked it, and 5 is loved it. Yeah.
One of these days.
I'm going to call your rating before you even say it.
Oh.
I'm going to say
But maybe this will like trailerize it, and it'll
It's-
be
for you it's a 2.5.
That's about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Called it.
Yeah, you it happens over time and you get the partial stars. But
Right, when you average.
And when you average, I think if I was to actually put the rating on the screen, it'd be 2.
Okay.
Because you can't give a partial star on Netflix. You get a partial star as an aggregate.
We make our own rules here.
Fair enough.
For me, it's a 5. I enjoyed the heck out of the movie.
You loved it.
I did. I acknowledge there are plenty of problems and there's things that I didn't absolutely love, but 90% of the movie I was rolling with it. I had fun.
And this is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Cause yeah, without that half, like, cause there was stuff in it that I liked,
Right.
but yeah,
As an overall film.
Do I go with 3 or go with 2? Because it's
I understand.
oh man,
That's why I say we make our own rules.
yeah,
Loosely based on the Netflix rating system.
yeah.
Right. If you want, you can count yourself as 30 people. You can just average it.
That's what the voice is
I mean,
saying.
it's a little bit egotistical.
Yeah, it's in between that 2.5 and 3. Like there's stuff like if I'd throw it on in the background, I'd watch it again, but like it's not as good as some of the other superhero movies that have come along. But there's little things in it that I liked. But
Right.
so it's right in that middle of
Makes sense.
okay.
So, on average, if you average the 3 of our scores together, we probably end up with like 2.5, maybe
There we go.
3. Yeah.
We came back around to the 2.5.
Yeah. All right. So this is your fair warning. Coming up next, we are going to not care whether you've seen it before or not.
entering into spoiler territory.
Spoiler zone.
Spoilers. Spoilers.
Alrighty, so
Spoilers.
Now
We're in the
that we're in the spoiler zone,
Get in the zone. The spoiler,
Spoiler
zone.
zone. There we go. That's your podcast.
yeah,
Yeah.
spoiler zone.
The
We
spoiler
drink
zone.
and spoil everything. Jason drinks and spoils everything. Jason drinks and spoils everything.
Man. Most things. Come on, not everything.
All right, so
Now we get into the meat and potatoes.
yeah,
Meat
kind
and
of
potatoes.
spoiled meat and potato.
Well, according to you guys, yeah, it sounds like it.
Okay, I'll start us off with Batman. Yes, I loved the Batman moments in this. It was so cool having him in there. I mean, I like Ben Affleck as Batman, so partial to that. But yeah, I liked him showing up. It was neat. Like, oh, this is part of the like movie universe. There's Batman. And he's like,
Right.
we're talking about Gotham City, and Batman showed up, and so that was neat. And like the, I kind of liked the little moment of when he jumps into the water to get Harley Quinn, and she
Right.
like, pops up and
Just to cut him.
right, knocks her out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually kind of ties into my our earlier point about like the Joker. Like actually having something that he care about, but at the same time, he did sort of just ditch her in the car at that point.
We didn't really see that he ditched her in the car. It's just that you don't.
Batman
see
shows
him in
up
the car.
and he's not there. It's just Harley in the car.
But it was a car that crashed into the water.
But the door was open. He was the only one bolted in. Like Harley's like shot through the glass. It's like he did leave her there.
And I think, like, to me, that's like, I like that aspect of like he's fighting with it, because they had that scene where he's like, he's gonna walk away after she jumped in, like, I'm done with her, and then he's like, wait, crap, I'm not done with her, and he jumps in. I like that he still has that play.
It's more interesting that way.
It's true. I just thought that was a kind of an interesting moment juxtaposed against the one where he dives into the chemical pit to get her. I'm like,
It's what always bugged me about the Joker in the animated series, to be honest, was I understand, like, them having, like, the heartless Joker that doesn't care about anything, but, I mean, he's got to care about something other than just fighting Batman.
Just fighting Batman.
It was always so weird to me, like, he treated Harley Quinn like crap every chance that he got. I mean, you never got to see any of the stuff where he turned her into Harley Quinn, thank goodness. But all of the other stuff, it was just like, I couldn't even imagine how he managed to keep her around at all, because it seemed like the first thing that he would have done was use her as a bullet shield or something like that. It just didn't. It never made any sense that she would survive more than 20 minutes in that. But now it makes sense to me.
So I would say in this too, like, so her Waller wanting to create this group, they give the reason of, like, because it takes place, Superman's dead, and they kind of give the example of, like, well, okay, what if another Superman shows up or something, but this time, they're the bad guys.
Right.
So, I want to put together, a team. And, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
But the way this movie, like, the I don't know if it's the editing or just the flow of the story, it felt like they had that moment, and then so they were thinking about the team, and then, like, when Enchantress goes rogue, then it was like, okay, to get this team together, like, it felt so weird to me. Like, it never, I know sort of the traditional way is, like, you have the big bad show up, and that's kind of like where then you have the scene of, like, okay, I have this idea, let's put this team together.
Right.
It's like they sort of have that, but, like, they're using Superman as an example instead.
Right.
I think they could have done a better job. It felt like how I mentioned earlier about a lot of the other team just felt like plot points. Mm-hmm. The actual creation of this team just felt like a plot point instead of, like, telling this neat story about a creation of a team.
Right.
It's just like, hey, remember how we mentioned that team? Enchantress went rogue. Let's put that team together. Like, I don't know. It didn't feel as smooth as I would have liked it to me.
It did feel a little bit like in Age of Ultron when they like, you remember that project, the Ultron project we started like years ago? Like, oh yeah, I remember that one. Wait, when did they mention this? Yeah, that was a little bit like, oh, I guess that's how they're doing it in this one. Okay, I was rolling with it at that point, but it was, as it progressed, I'm like, okay, yeah, it didn't quite congeal the way I was kind of hoping it would. All the other characters just seemed to be around for when, and I honestly feel like Killer Croc got kind of the shortest end of that stick, because, like, he doesn't seem like he had a real moment to shine. Like,
he had his swimming part, which you. Yeah. Which you could see coming sort of as soon as...
He speaks to reptiles.
as soon as Flag mentioned, like, all right, my SEAL team can go underwater, it's like, okay, so this is the part where Croc is going to go in
Right.
and help him. So it's like,
Which,
damn.
yeah, which was fine. It just,
No, the person who really got the short end of the stick was Slipknot, because
yeah,
Short end of the rope.
yeah, he got short end of everything.
Well, I mean, he had a pretty long rope. They gave him enough rope to hang himself. I liked that they didn't play him up, though, because they could have done the entire thing like, oh, this is why his ropes are so cool and everything like that, and
Right.
then just cut it. And it would have been like, oh, okay.
that was
That's awkward.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I do wonder if they did shoot some flashbacks or stuff with him.
Yeah,
they ended up getting
I was
cut it
sad.
out.
I like that actor a lot. I wish they'd have him in more stuff.
Yeah.
Especially since not many Native American actors in much of anything these days.
is that too.
Especially since he's an actually like really good actor, just period.
Yeah, it was kind of neat seeing him do like a little bit of like Attack on Titan, like cable
That's
writing
true.
stuff.
I didn't even think about that.
That was like a nice little moment. And then I'm like, oh, that moment's over now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still a little confused too why like Captain Boomerang was.
Yeah, why did they bring him on?
Yeah, like what? I mean, like he made his boomerangs a little more interesting than I was wondering what they were going to be like, but he just
Yeah.
didn't seem like. They play up Deadshot. I mean, there's this dude that cannot miss, hits the same target all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
They play up Harley Quinn, you know, the connection with the Joker and just being crazy, and she can do all this crazy stuff, and people like her character and stuff like that.
Right.
But like Captain Boomerang, like it's not
To
like,
me, what made sense to me about him was that he was technically the most like devious of all of them, just as far as he was the one out of all of them that would actually plan something, it seemed like. Since he's a bank robber, it's not like that just happens.
Yeah,
That takes some forethought and so on.
But they never really-
didn't
Yeah.
sell that at all.
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah,
and that
'cause-
was disappointing a little bit.
because they played up that Flag was basically in charge, would lead them. So it was like he was basically the one following, Waller's orders, tell him what to do. So that's where it was like, why would you have Captain Boomerang? Like he doesn't have any superpowers, or
Yeah,
it's like if they played up, I don't know, if they played up some sort of angle. He felt like we need a character for comic relief, so we'll have this. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
have this Australian guy. And so it just didn't fit like the idea of the Suicide Squad. Like they're supposed to be the baddest of the bad, and it's like Captain Boomerang. Like
Yeah.
he robs banks. Like
he doesn't play well with others. Okay, I
it's like I could see him in another like prison or something, but to send him to this maximum security where it's supposed to be the baddest of bad, Killer Croc, a guy who shoots fire.
Well, that's the
Deadshot,
thing. Like
and
he
it's like-
wasn't ever actually sent there. They just pulled him in for the team because
That's
they
true,
pulled
but
him
yeah.
in the bag.
That's
That's a
true,
good point.
but yeah, I'd still I don't.
Yeah.
There was no real like why is this guy on the team?
Yeah,
Except
there
for
wasn't a good explanation for him.
we
at
need
all.
some comic relief.
yeah.
The,
And,
the thing that made sense to me for him also that was actually used in it was that he was the only actual, oddly enough, the only actual agitator out of the crew. Like, he was the only one that was actually pushing the envelope. I mean, that's the reason why Slipknot got killed.
Yeah,
I mean, he was the one always testing the fences.
yeah,
And everybody else was oddly enough like along for the ride a lot of the time.
well, both like Deadshot and Harley were like, okay, you take out this guy, you can do that. Like
They said
they all
it,
had their
but-
moments of just.
of wanting to get out, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think they kind of backed off when they saw Slipknot's head explode.
Right, and
but-
that to me was the entire purpose of having Captain Boomerang because he created that moment that allowed them to pull everybody into the line. I understand why he's there. I understand him not being like as well fleshed out as he should have been, but I understand the logic of all of the things surrounding him, at least.
Yeah, yeah, but even El Diablo, it's like, oh, this guy's pretty cool, but we really only need him for this one scene. Like he has other things that are interesting, but
Come on, that scene. It was awesome.
That
was one of the best things in the movie, in my view.
It was very good. I grant you that, but like it just didn't seem like he should have ended up there in some ways, because like he was, when they first go up to talk to him,
He's the only one with an actual superpower.
right? But he was also completely content to sit in his little oxygen-proof container and wait for death to take him.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, "We're gonna kill you if you don't do this." I was gonna let myself die anyway. So
I thought what they would do is play up the angle of like, because they kind of play up, he doesn't want to use his powers anymore, especially like to hurt people or for evil.
Right.
That they'd play up a little more of like this city and all the like innocent people in it just
Right.
got taken over by all these creatures. Like this could spread. Like
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
that maybe they'd play up that little angle.
That's
Like
true.
you could use your powers. Like I know you don't. Like I know it happened to your family with this, but you could do some good. Like you could stop this from spreading. And to me, that would then make sense. where
Yes.
he'd be like, okay, I'll do it for my family, for others who won't lose their family. If I can use my powers good for like just this once or something. I mean, it's a little corny, but it would make a little more sense.
It'd
Like,
be a motivation as opposed to, well, okay, flame.
because it was like, it's not my fight. My fight's like, yeah, I get it. So that's when you have Flag and some others go, hey, bud, how about
All of these people, this city will be the rest of the world unless you do something about it, like that. And I think Deadshot could have even said that. It's like if they want to make him more heroic, sure, have him do the pep talk. It was like, I don't know. It just he was one of those. It's like, yeah, we don't really have a good reason for you to be here, but we need you to be here for this really awesome scene in the movie. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it to me. Okay, the thing that's interesting to me about all of these characters is that it's more of what they were trying to sell the Avengers as in that first movie than they actually pulled off in that movie. Is that they are a chemical mixture that's meant to be put together and actually creates better results. To me, like the Avengers, these are all actually like pretty decent people. They might be like vain or like protective of themselves or somebody else, but they're all good people. At least in Suicide Squad, it felt like, yeah, these are all completely useless, shitty chemicals, but when you put them together, they make like Diet Pepsi. And the illustration of that to me was that, I mean, they were pinned down by those things in that high rise, and that's when Deadshot starts messing with Diablo to try and get him to actually help out, and it messed with him enough that he helped out. And to me, that made sense. I mean, that's how those characters function. Is it? He obviously had a problem with, well, and he states this in his backstory too, in Diablo, is that he can be riled up, and that's a vulnerability with him. And so them playing that vulnerability to trigger him being a useful character made sense to me.
I'd agree with you if Captain Boomerang was the one that pushed him over the edge, not
That's true.
Deadshot.
That would have been better.
Not
That would have
Deadshot,
been
because
better.
they played up Captain Boomerang as kind of the antagonist, like the one poking people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I think that would have been
I
little
wonder.
more
I'd be
interesting.
willing to bet they played with that idea, but they wanted to sell Deadshot as the leader, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing too. I don't know how much of that. I'd wonder if, because I'd heard people mention this, and again, who knows if it's people just spewing stuff for the heck of it. But I'd understood from other people that Will Smith wasn't happy with the original script, that it didn't make his character interesting enough. I wonder how many of those scenes were rewritten to make Deadshot a more important character so that Will Smith would actually get into the movie.
It's possible.
Yeah, entirely possible. Like,
Big name attached to
right.
it, so.
yeah, and his name would definitely draw.
Especially after losing Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy
Yeah.
was supposed to be Boomerang, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but-
So
remember correctly.
imagine if they would have had Tom Hardy in that role. I think they would have played up that role a lot more.
Yeah. I want. It's a good point. I wonder if they like. Okay, we can't rely on this guy this character to we originally written this script. So let's
Yeah.
rejigger
So
some
why
things.
not cave to Will Smith?
Well, at that point, you need someone that will sell, has a name to sell. Besides, Margot Robbie kind of took the screen buzz with her portrayal, but no one knew not many people knew her name.
Well, she got her name off of Wolf of Wall Street. That was actually a fairly big movie, and
And I saw her
people.
in Pan Am.
There you go. That
TV
too.
show.
Yeah, and I think she was also in that movie Room, and so it's she's been in it's not that she wasn't in things, but before that, we didn't really know her until some of these other movies. I'm like, oh wow, she has range and she's interesting and stuff like that. Will Smith was like, oh yeah, Will Smith. Everyone knows Will Smith.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I agree with you that they're trying to create turn volatile chemicals into a useful solution, but this
It's the closest. It's the closest thing that we've had to a legitimate Dirty Dozen movie in a long time, and I wonder if the Rogue Star Wars movie is going to be a better version of that. But for now, this is the best that we've had in decades.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a shame that like I mentioned before, it's the Deadshot and Harley Quinn, they're it's it's called the Suicide Squad, but honestly, it's
The
The-
Dedicated
it's-
Squad.
it's just
Most of the
mostly
squad was
those
expendable.
two, and the
Yeah.
others when they need to move the plot forward or have some specific little point. It's just a shame the other characters weren't as interesting as I'd hope. I'm fine with you making a team of bad guys if you all at least make them interesting. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to have that many characters and spend enough time to feel invested in all of them.
Yeah, and
Which is why Marvel kind of cheated their way into the perfect spot, just because they were able to spend the time and money on every single character with their own movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
to kind of play. Oh, what were you
I was
gonna say?
gonna say, but they didn't cheat their way. They just they said, well, we have these good characters. Let's make a movie about this decent character because Iron Man did really well. We can probably sell a few more of these kinds of movies, and as they got more of them, they think, well, we can make bigger budget ones and more of them and put more of them together.
Yeah.
But sorry, go on.
I was trying to be hyperbolic.
Okay.
Sorry. They cheated their way into it. They bought their way into it.
Yeah.
Because DC does kind of have to play catch up.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys feel about the use of flashbacks? A lot of flashbacks to kind of give the depth to the characters where they couldn't because there weren't previous movies.
Yeah.
Was it too much? Was it enough? Was it a lot?
They did. I think some of them were pretty effective. The Harlequin ones were actually. I thought those were rather good. Those vignettes. The Deadshot one was a good little vignette as well with his introduction to the story. Yeah, I don't think they were. They weren't that. I think they were done fairly well. It did seem like a lot of times it was somewhat. It felt like someone telling us about the character, as opposed to the character kind of showing who they were in a lot of ways. I mean, granted, you only have so much time. You can't. And with a 6-7 person core team of quote unquote heroes plus Waller and that was a lot of characters we're trying to develop in one movie. Which, I mean,
Yeah.
it's whenever you have that, you're always gonna run against the problem of everyone's gonna be just a little bit more shallow than you would like them to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they added on to the fact of it wasn't just Flag too. It was like he had Marines with him also. So,
Right.
I think Clint Eastwood's son
Yeah.
was one of them. Yeah.
That was the thing that I thought was interesting too. Like after, for some reason, like Clint Eastwood's son is just recognizable enough as Clint Eastwood's son.
Yeah.
Whenever I don't see him in something that they don't use him like hardly at all, which I don't know if he has the acting chops to be used like terribly well yet. I haven't seen him in enough stuff, but he's identifiable enough that it ends up sort of distracting. And so at the end, when they have him pull off the thing where he uses the explosive, it was like, did they just have him like suicide bomb basically? It seems after all that he managed to survive all that crap, and that's the way he goes out.
Well, it's called Suicide Squad. Someone's got to die.
That's true. Yeah. Clint Eastwood's son was the only one who actually lived up to that.
Yeah, which is kind of ironic.
And
Since
Diablo, sort of.
yeah, he was willing to sacrifice. But yeah, like the Suicide Squad there was more suicides outside the squad than there was inside the squad. Proxy Suicide Squad. No.
So, okay, another big thing was, I think we kind of alluded to it a little earlier, the beginning of the movie was when you mentioned the part about possibly the same editors, who shot the one trailer.
Right.
The beginning of the movie was very heavily, like, there was a lot of music, licensed tracks, that sort of thing. Like, it was definitely that first chunk had kind of a style to its own. What did you guys think of how that was done?
It hooked me really well. I really liked their all of the different choices of the music that they had for each of the characters worked pretty well as far as the lyrics and the tone of the song. So yeah, it worked pretty well as sort of a musical foundation for it. I think I probably would have appreciated it more if they would have treated it like Guardians of the Galaxy and had them peppered in as like more genuine moments, but then it would be too easy to say that you're ripping off Guardians of the Galaxy. So I feel like they kind of did their own thing with it, and it was successful enough at doing that thing.
Yeah, it also I think it was a pretty effective hook. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess in some ways that's part of my like ambivalence about it, because it's at a certain point the tone of the film changes very drastically, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in this case it felt really it increased the disjointed feelings I was having about a lot of the story elements in the movie and the characterizations in the movie. It's like it just added that extra, like, it's like when you have your bicycle and like one of the wheels is just a little bit off. You keep hitting, you'll feel it. And you're like, that one's just a little bit weird. and I think that like it's not that it's a bad ride. Just you notice that one wheel is like,
box boat right there. Bicycle wheels feels a little odd. Suicide Squad. Get up, let's attack.
See it now.
How about you, Joe?
Cheat.
A cheat? Yeah,
it was a total cheat to me. I'm going to go ahead and say that they were trying to go for Guardians of the Galaxy. I think so. I think, to me, music should enhance the moment, not create it. But that's just my personal opinion. This felt like they're like, hey, if we use this song, this will totally make it be like this. And so I liked the tracks that they picked, but I didn't like that. That's how they were using it. To me, my personal opinion, it was just like, it just felt like, man, come on, you guys, like, you make the mood and then let the music enhance it, not like
Here's the mood, guys.
yeah, here's this track, here's this. It's I was like, oh man, and it was like track after track, totally different, all this, and then this one played, and then this one's like, yeah, it was. I did not like it. I like the music itself, but I did not like how they did it.
So it didn't feel quite like the quote unquote motif themes like in the Star Wars soundtracks and stuff like that, where it's like the music was part of the character. If it was like they applied the music to the scene to make you,
I think that's what they were going for, but to me, it just felt like they were cheating. It wasn't like this is you want this character to be as cool as this song is, but like why don't you make the character cool, and then that music will just enhance it. Like don't rely on that track to make your character cool. Like, but
fair enough.
Again, just my opinion.
The few modern songs that they used, and they actually had a couple specifically made for this movie.
Yeah.
I felt like they actually nailed that, and they were pretty good. Also, just from the standpoint of, and I don't know how much of this was David Ayer versus the producers or what, but as far as those, I felt like they were more meant to be there from the beginning. And David Ayer has always had that weakness in his movies. He has a really dark tone to the stuff that feels like incredibly dour and serious. And I feel like they chose him back when people were comfortable with that being the tone for the DC stuff. And when people flipped on it and turned on it, like, we're tired of that. We've seen Guardians of the Galaxy now, so we want to have some fun with it.
A little bit of
David
optimism.
Ayer became a liability. And it would be interesting to see like his view of that movie, but I have a feeling it wouldn't be anywhere near as much fun as I personally had with the movie in its current state.
Yeah, that's probably pretty fair.
Can you give some examples of his films for the audience?
Fury, for one. It's really good at being Fury, but there is not a soundtrack that is going to make you go like, yeah, I can't wait to hear the Fury soundtrack again. And,
that was the Tank movie with Brad Pitt, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, the closest thing to a movie that had a soundtrack to it would have been kind of his first big movie, Training Day. But the soundtrack to that felt more incidental. It was just whatever happened to be on the radio for the different people. I don't know if he even chose that music. It didn't feel like it, at least. So all of his stuff is really like moody, like thought pieces, actually, in a weird sort of way. And I mean, with the exception being the one that he made with Schwarzenegger, I forget the name of it. We saw it in the theater.
Oh, that one. Okay, he did that one. That Breach one.
Yeah,
Breach. Is that what it was called? Or
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's he's very good at making dark stuff where you're not sure who the good guy is. And even Fury is kind of down to that in a certain respect. I mean, it's a scenario where these guys are the good guys, but they don't necessarily act like good guys all the time because they have to survive this scenario.
Yeah.
The one with Schwarzenegger was Sabotage.
Oh, okay,
There we
yeah.
go.
And I'm weird. I like that movie too. That's the other thing is I feel like he's pretty good at creating a roller coaster, both as far as action and emotional roller coaster. And Training Day was probably the best example of that, just because you end up really was it Ethan Hawke who was you end up really sympathizing with Ethan Hawke's character, but at the same time, it's really tempting to get on board with Denzel Washington's character because he is kind of badass, as horrible as he is.
Well, I think to use an example to tie it kind of back with Suicide Squad is, I think the actor Denzel Washington himself, like he kind of uses that. His charisma and the audience kind of already liking Denzel to help like okay, maybe I'll get on board with what his character's doing. I think he did the same thing with Will Smith. I think using Will Smith, like, all right, people like Will Smith, so that's an easy way to like get a little bit of already cred on like possibly liking the character. Like, okay,
Right.
Will Smith seems like a likable guy. The audience likes Will Smith, so
I like
we can
Fresh
use
Prince.
a little bit of that.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing that's stunning to me about David Ayer movies, and I promise to get off of this as soon as this is done, because I know it's not a track on David Ayer specific, but it's stunning to me that whenever he puts together a movie, they don't give him like the absolute cream of the crop actors, because that's when his movies kind of turn into gold. And I think Fury and Training Day illustrate that the best, because there were really good actors in that. Shia LaBeouf, best actor of all time.
The greatest.
All right.
Just do it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Just
like
act.
they had freaking Punisher in that, and I'm sure in Fury, I'm sure that was a big selling point for them to give Punisher a really big role in the Daredevil movie.
Yeah, I'm sure
because
that didn't
he was
hurt.
gold in that. He was a person that you really wanted to hate with everything that you had, but it was really good acting.
Sure, him playing Shane helped too.
That's true. Yeah, that's even closer. But as far as time frame,
Yeah.
it makes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would comment more on that, but I don't think I've seen a David Ayer film until this
Educate yourself.
one. Yeah, I'll see what's on
That's
Netflix.
Just the rum talking.
That's right. Jason's been drinking.
Why is rum always gone?
Because Jason drinks it all. Man! All of it.
Just one finger.
Tons of fingers.
All the fingers.
All the fingers.
All 10 of them.
Oh, man, so many fingers.
Whoa. This took on a different tone.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
speaking of fingers.
Yes.
See, I can bring it back to Suicide Squad. They only did it once, and I could see why it's not necessarily
exactly what you're
to
gonna
show
say.
it, but I thought it was a really cool effect the first time you see Enchantress take over
Yes.
her body with
Yes.
the hand, the fingers
That
Yes.
was
underneath,
cool.
and then flip. That was really cool. I was like, whoa, all right.
Yeah.
That said, I think this movie would have been 30 times more effective, just top to bottom, if they would have went all in on horror movie. But that's just me.
Yeah,
I
more-
like
more-
horror movies.
more of a survival horror
That
film.
is a horror character right
Yeah.
there. I mean, they could have cut out her brother altogether and just had it be her and just went all in on the horror, and that would have been something really interesting to see. Because her brother was definitely like the sledgehammer of the two, and she was more of the actual creepy, and she did that pretty good. I
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm tempted to say that would have been a much more interesting movie than what we ended up with.
Yeah.
And you don't like horror.
I am not a fan of the horror, although I did play all 3 Dead Space games. So
Right.
I have a certain amount of resistance to it if it's done really well. And
He's built up a tolerance.
I built up a tolerance to it. Yes, it's all your fault, Elaine. But yeah,
That
I w-
actress was really good too.
I thought she did, and she did. I thought a really nice job of flipping that personality, going from the primal enchantress to the adventurous, but more reserved Moon, June Moon.
Yeah.
So I
with
was
an
like,
E at the end.
yes,
Yeah.
because comic books. So
Yeah, because it was like it was her thing when it was like, I'm gonna create this.
it's like she wanted to be a god again,
thing
but they
and
didn't
it's
really
gonna
like.
take over. It was just like it was just kind of boring. It was
Did-
like it wasn't.
And I think if they gave her more chance to be the actual big bad, like have her like involved more with like, actually like going out and doing maybe like attacking the Suicide Squad a little bit more closely, that would have been a more interesting track.
Yeah, because if they instead of the brother being the one that who was the one making the? Was she making them?
She
or-
was the
She
one-
was making the things.
Yeah.
Those
The eye,
soldiers,
the
yeah.
eye faces.
Okay. Yeah, it was. It just felt more like they could have just kind of had her do that
Uh-huh.
and like you mentioned, then they just play it more of like the psychological enchanting thing that she was doing.
Yeah.
You know, kind of played at that angle maybe a little bit more and.
And I
And
think that,
again, back to the like visual effects, all of the visual effects surrounding her, like dead on, like her vanishing and becoming like ethereal and like squeezing through holes and everything. That was so cool.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
yeah, they did a good job on those effects. And I think, and also if they had done more of that psychological stuff, like you were talking about, like that would have made all of these really flawed characters much more
Yeah.
interesting. Because then it's like, this is their mind. This is how they perceive the world. And that's why they are the way they are. And that would have given them maybe not motivation, but then you would have had the heart of who this character is, so that when you see them do something heroic, you're like, yeah, fight the power and all that. But like,
But
for-
I mean, they did that.
they had a moment of it. It was a pretty fast moment, but they did do that. But like, if they'd used that as more of the way to give more of the backstory of these characters, as opposed to like just not like maybe that would be the hook for pulling in the flashback. I think that could have been interesting, as opposed to just straight flashback.
Okay.
That might have been a way to thread these interweaving plot lines together, and also like, you know, maybe like have a talk about like when she was an ancient goddess, like, you know, or a being of great power. Like a little bit about that would have been kind of interesting. Is like, I felt that was sort of lacking in terms of her as a character, because it's like that's what we need Indiana Jones to go like, this is ancient Sumerian something or other, like, or like, you know, like track this being through history. Like she showed up here as this name, here as this name, and here is this name. This creature is, you know, like,
They need Patty from Ghostbusters.
yes, they needed Patty. They needed an ethereal Patty.
Yeah, it felt like the brother was put in to be like a big bad. Like, okay, we need some big, menacing and visual, like, you know, for the enemies to attack like the end or something like that, you know. And it's
Right.
like I've mentioned, and when we talked about Batman versus Superman, like the Doomsday thing, like it's, for me, again, it's starting to get to the point where whenever it comes down to like just like a big giant monster, like, hey, if your special effects are cool, like, good on you. It may still look nice. It kind of bores me. Like, that's what I really liked about those crazy eye little things, because they were just like in your face. It was personal. They were normal size, like, you know, like taking on the team and everything. And then as soon as you just throw in the giant CG like monster guy, it just becomes like, okay, like that looks neat, but to me, it like I lose interest, because I'm kind of bored of that. Like I
Fair enough. And also, like, the Enchantress showed herself to be quite the threat against all of them individually when she like throws down at the end, and they're all of them were like trying to take her on.
That
and,
was
like,
such a cool fight. I love that so much.
and it's like
What-
at the end when like after
The
they
fist
kill
fight at the very end
kill her-
with
after they take out the
Enchantress
brother?
versus all of them.
yeah,
Oh.
you know, dual swords and like doing the like the Nightcrawler bamf around the room thing, like she could have actually like been like this. That threat could have been really cool. Even more
Okay.
cool, I mean.
Speaking of swords, I'm glad you mentioned this. It was Katana, right?
Yes.
Is his
Right.
name?
What
What was the point of that character? Like,
Yeah, again, it's one
seriously?
of those that's like
I mean, I like the idea of her. She seemed cool, but it was just like,
she's
you
in this.
could have
Was,
just had like sharp boomerang there that Harley Quinn picked up and sliced. Like,
Honestly, the point of her character to me was that when it came to that final fight, because all of the big characters were basically gun characters, and you're suddenly fighting against something that guns are useless, she had the only weapon that would actually hurt any of those things. And so between her and Diablo, they're the only spiritual characters.
So she became a plot point.
True.
And to their credit, she is a part of the Suicide Squad like core team from the Amanda Waller's side of the fence. But yeah, in the movie, she didn't really feel like as tightly integrated as it could have been.
Yeah, they could. At the very least, they could have done a better job of like getting her in. It literally, it's like they were like, and here's this character, and they're like, hey, where have you been? Flashback, and then it was like, she was out revenge, killing this thing. Like, okay, like they're a neat character, but just for like a movie, it was just like, so are you putting her in so you could have her in future like DC movies? Because that's what it felt like to me, and it's like. That's
basically
not really,
yeah.
That's not good.
I mean, that's
making.
everybody
No,
in this movie.
Effectively.
I mean, it's the entire reason why the movie exists.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
That's not how you should make a movie. Then, if it's just,
it's like, I mean, effectively, Spider-Man was kind of that in Civil War, but the integration was a little bit tighter, and so it felt less awkward. Not zero awkward, but less.
It's.
I mean, the problem that the entire movie industry has right now is that everybody's scrambling to get somewhere in the ballpark of Marvel, and nobody knows how to do it without taking massive shortcuts. So that's kind of the movie in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I guess that's really like kind of our gripe because
that comes down to why we don't like it. Why
we're not as much. It's like it's like you guys shortcutted here, and here to make this situation, and it's like like I said, I see that as an industry as a whole. Like the Marvel pie is a very tasty pie, and everyone would like to have a piece of that Marvel pie.
Right.
Well, actually, the Disney pie, because like freaking Disney's making everything. But
yeah, I mean, it could have been way cooler if she was like always by his side.
Yeah,
not saying anything outside, and like the other characters could kind of be like glancing at her like from time to time, just like she hasn't said anything, she's not doing anything.
That's true.
And like they could have done like a cool way of just.
Bring her in.
I don't know. Like having her do something, and then like she uses the sword, and then that's when like Flag mentions something like, "Oh yeah, that's a mystical." Like his line of like, "Yeah, you don't want to get killed by that because it'll steal your soul." It's just like something sort of random, crazy like that would have been more fun than just like, "Hey, where were you?" Flashback. Like that
flashback back didn't feel needed to me at all, especially since. She was obviously not a main character.
Yeah. I mean, like when I did the Caleb's Corner not so very long ago, we were like, yeah, her backstory is this. That's all, and like it's very like you really like the Wikipedia article on her is like really short because like there's not much to it. She's interesting because of what she does, not because of what she did before. In a lot of ways.
And I'll clarify. Like, I have absolutely no problem with her being in the movie. It was just how she was introduced in the movie.
Why do you hate her so much?
I think they could have done a better job.
Agreed. Yeah, it did sort of like, oh, and now character. Hi, character.
Go crap! We forgot to put Katana in. Yes. Where's Katana? She's like sitting in her trailer, like so.
Do I even bother with a mask?
Do I come in? What scene am I? Oh crap! We forgot. You were supposed to be in all these other scenes. Here, this one.
They didn't even call me into makeup this morning.
It's like she was like just out of frame the whole time. Like,
yeah.
If you can't see the camera, it can't see you. Move in, darling.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the kind of the biggest gripe with DC movies right now is that they're pulling really hard on trying to prove that they can run as hard and as fast as Marvel can, as well as Marvel can, and they haven't made quite enough DC movies to prove they can run as well as Marvel can. Because like the Nolan trilogy is the Nolan trilogy. It is Batman, but it doesn't necessarily tie back into anything else. So like,
well, I mean, okay, I feel like their choice of Snyder as being sort of the founder of the new DC universe. That should have been the big signal that they're not trying to play Marvel's game in the first place. They're playing a broad get people to just enjoy the movie type of game. They're not going for depth, anything like that. Because I mean, where is Snyder's like massive back catalog of thought pieces or whatever?
300.
Right? Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry if you were expecting that or hoping for that.
Yeah.
You should have seen the writing on the wall a long time ago.
With the Greek, Scottish king.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Scottish king.
It just is kind of sad with such a wealth of backlog of history.
Yeah, I guess.
DC universe, like, but you know, it's a style if you like it or not. So, and I think what I'd say about so far the DC universe is like I like elements of it. They're just like there hasn't been of the it's 3 now. Man
3,
of Steel,
yeah.
Batman vs Superman, Suicide Squad. Like I've enjoyed elements of all 3, but
On the
I
whole,
wouldn't say like compare. I know we probably can't really compare to Marvel, but like the other Marvel ones where it's like there's at least ones where it's like okay, that like movie all the way through, like that's fun. I can watch that and like boom, like
yeah.
Where these it's like I like parts of it. Like oh, that's pretty cool. Like you know. So.
It's almost like you walk down, you get you got a nice plate of food, and it looks good, and then you bite into the steak, and that was really good. And then you take the potatoes, and they're just not quite right. And then the green beans are just a little bit off. And yeah, it's not that the plate was bad; it's just that the other parts of it weren't quite as good.
Bikes and food. On the box score. DC Universe. It's kind of like the
you got the surf and turf, but
yeah. The thing that's interesting to me about Snyder and kind of the movies that they're kind of building around him, apparently, is it's like he realized a long time ago, I'm not going to make Schindler's List or anything like that. There's really good movies, there's really fun movies, and then there's the movies that manage to do both at the same time, and that is some sort of wicked, crazy chemical mixture that you have to be an ultra scientist in order to pull off. And it feels like he realized a long time ago, I'm no ultra scientist.
Yeah, and it is a distinct style for the DCU that they've created cinematically. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. We're only like I said, we're only 3 films in.
Yeah,
I'll be curious to see how Wonder Woman turns out since we saw the preview for that in this one. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but you know,
I don't see it. I don't see the DCU going anyplace else. I think they're going to go for mindless action movies over and over again. Even based on the previews that I've seen of stuff that's coming up, it seems like that's kind of their ticket.
Fair enough.
Was there? Let's see. Did you guys have like a favorite moment or what? I don't know. How else you want to wrap up? What else you want to guide us, Caleb? Guide us.
Right.
Guide us to the end.
Yeah. I think let's end on an up note. Like, what the thing we liked most about the favorite particular moment in Suicide Squad? If you have a particular moment,
I don't know about moment, but Enchantress was easily like my favorite thing. It was so much fun, caught me completely off guard that would be something that I enjoyed thoroughly. The actress that they chose to portray her, I literally got shivers down my spine at certain spots where she like snapped out of it and she was just scared out of her wits. That was really good to me. I mean, that said, I'm sure there's an argument to be made that she could have been a stronger female character. And it would have been cool having June Moon exert a little bit more control here and there, have a little bit more agency as a character instead of having it be Enchantress who is in control all the time. But that said,
I think
Enchantress was awesome.
I think to play off that, I think like where we were with that character's history, like she probably was earlier on, but as they made her
Right.
swap more and more, she was just losing, and so we were kind of seeing that
It's all Waller.
that tail.
Waller screwed it
that
up for everybody.
tail end of her where it's just like I can't control it anymore, and you're just like
Yeah.
you're completely freaked out. So it's on the one hand, yeah, it's like it makes it seem like she's not a
Yeah.
strong character, whatnot, but it's like we are kind of seeing like that end where so hopefully people aren't judging
Yeah.
too much on that. It's like, well, I think where we're seeing her is, but
Yeah, but then without a lot more backstory about what's happened between when she became Enchantress or joined with Enchantress and now, like there's not quite a lot of that said. They did hint at it though a few times, which was pretty good that they didn't outright say, which is I thought actually kind of nice.
And it was nice in the little bit of backstory that Flag was giving that he sold her as somebody who was supposed to be like really kind of badass and competent until this horrible thing happened to her. That was kind of nice in my view, that she was actually a badass adventurer until she adventured against something that was a little bit too big for her.
She couldn't craft her way out of this one.
Right.
How about you, Joe?
see, I want to say Harley. The only thing is, like, a lot of her moments, like I mentioned before, were spoiled because of the trailers.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like it took some of the gusto out of it. But
Right.
I still liked it. It just it kind of stinks because it's like I saw that part already. I saw that part already. Like, I heard that line already. Like yeah, I'll go with that for now. I'm trying to think of. I'm trying like a specific moment or something. I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, I guess it better be phrased it as element, and Harley would count as an element.
Well, I'll try and if like a certain
that all
moment
she
pops
is?
in, slap. If a certain moment pops in, I'll try and say that. What? How about for yourself?
Nothing.
I changed my mind. 0 stars.
Right.
And I think honestly, one of the better moments was kind of when they were both when all the squad was like unpacking their like personal effects from prison. I thought that was kind of nice because like you got a little glimpse of all the characters and you got to see them like kind of gleeful for like a little moment in time.
Yeah.
Oh, happy. Ooh, that's nice stuff.
Yeah, just like and like seeing like there was a certain amount of satisfaction in like reclaiming their own identities from these boxes, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think that was one of my preferred moments, and that was also fairly early in the film. I think later on, like one of my other favorite effects was like the little subtle like that the eyes around Enchantress's headdress would blink occasionally.
I missed that.
Oh, that weirded me out. I'm like, oh, good God. It's a Guillermo del Toro movie without Guillermo del Toro in it. Or it's a Guillermo del Toro effect in another movie.
Was this when she was like smoke or?
Yeah, she when it was in the scenes
Enchantress in 2.5.
Yeah, Enchantress with implanted heart, and like there was like a couple moments when she was like when she was taunting them when the camera was on her, where you saw like the eyes, like one or two of them would go. I'm like, oh,
I'm watching you, Caleb.
Yeah, that was creeping me out. I'm like, which made her one of the more. She was actually one of the better parts of the movie in certain ways, but at the same time, a little bit undercooked.
You're sad that you saw the potential. You're like, man, they should have used her to. She could have been this way. Like,
a little more of this, like drawn out. Maybe I don't know. I can't. I've never made a movie, so I can't. It's hard for me to like say. If you had just done this, your movie would have been perfect, sir.
Armchair movie making here, but hey,
yeah.
Yeah, there was a part that I remember chuckling to myself with that involved with the Joker, but man, it's like escaping me now because it was a part that wasn't like in any of the trailers. Like I wasn't like laugh out loud, ha ha ha, but I was like, oh, that's kind of neat.
Little
You
smirk.
saw a little glimpse, but it's escaping me now.
No worries. But yeah, that's kind of been our general and very specific takes on the Suicide Squad movie. Thank you for listening. This is Around the Water Cooler, the spin-off show of the Robots Attack show, which you can hear on Mondays from 7-ish to 9-ish on KSU 103.3 FM, The Underground Sound, or on robotsattack.me. Jason, where can they find you online, and what are you up to?
Best thing to do probably is just look up my screen name for multiple accounts online. It's VILVESTRI, and you can find most everything that I mess around with. There's a little bit of the YouTubes, a little bit of the Twitch, and also you can find old art stuff of mine on DeviantArt with the letter J SUN, and that's about it.
Very good. Joe?
You can find me on Twitter, DjangoFett25, same name on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
And
What's your usual Twitch schedule?
it's going to change.
Going to
lately,
change,
so
okay.
Just look that name and
Keep an eye on the Twitter.
Yeah.
And
How
you
about
can,
yourself, Caleb?
myself, you can find me on Twitter generally as Geeko Supremo, and that's basically the best place to find out most of the stuff I do. Lots of tweets about web tech and space
And hurting yourself.
That one's new. I mean, I'm not trying to make a habit of that one.
Well, and food.
Yeah, there was one video in the background against more tweets about hurting myself.
Oh, come on, Jackass made a whole career out of it. So
That's true. You
Yeah.
just need to figure out how to make it entertaining, and you start raking in the gold.
yep.
Yeah, I'll we'll debate that one later. Thank you for listening. Tune in to robotsattack.me for more of this show and other Robots Attack shows.